Welcome to Just Healing, where we rediscover humanity in our conversations around trauma and celebrate all the unique ways we love and heal. I'm one of your Season 2 co-hosts, Dr. Debra. Trauma doesn't exist in a bubble. Healing shouldn't either. Let's listen, let's learn, let's heal.
Fear is so powerful. Fear is the number one emotion that can motivate us. It is the most powerful emotion. We are so skewed to look at things in such a negative way. I hope to help us all look at things in a more realistic and positive way. I think our greatest gift is coming together as people. I think it's our purpose, coming together as human beings. It, to me, is the purpose of the human race, that we can come together and support each other.
Hello, everybody. We are here for our next episode of Just Healing with Dr. Greg Cason. And I am so excited about this because he has so much experience, but he's going to be one of our next Season 2 co-hosts. Hey, Greg.
Hey, Debra. It's good to see you.
Why don't you introduce the audience to yourself?
What can I say? I, too, am a psychologist. I have private practice here in LA. I do a lot of different things. I guess I've done a lot of media in the past. I was on LA Shrinks on Bravo, and I've been on CNN a bazillion times. And yeah, that's it. I mean, and basically I'm just very interested in helping improve the human condition. I try to do that through a variety of means, and this is one of them, doing media.
Yeah, and you taught me a lot about being a positive person, right? And and seeing things through a different lens. You're doing a new show now also called Off the Couch, right?
Yes, it's a podcast that I just started because I want to talk about research, and I want to talk about research in just the most, cool way that applies to people, because you and I know that we have so much research that's available to us that's being released every single week. And almost nobody reads that research. Almost none of it makes it to the news. And so it just sits there. These people do this valuable work. It just doesn't get out there. So I'm talking about research that really applies. Like I've talked about the mental health effects of Roe v. Wade that actually impacted the nation. I talked about the effects of teacher strikes and how that actually improves children's mental health. I talk about all these different things. I even had an episode of why are women attracted to douchey men. So I was like, kind of went into the research around that because there were several studies released that week that really told us a lot of those answers. So that's the kind of thing I like to do.
Yeah, and it's actually quite interesting because I watch everything that you do because I'm always so fascinated about the things you say and how you see life in just a different way, like thinking out of the box. But you always find the good in people. That's the thing that is amazing to me.
I learned that. So one of the fellowships I did was with a psychologist named Albert Ellis. And Albert Ellis, it was one of the founders of cognitive behavioral therapy. If anyone's taken a basic psychology class, they've probably heard his name. But outside of that, maybe not. But he was one of the founders of cognitive behavioral therapy. And what he always said was you have to accept the person as a person separate from their acts. And that was profound to me. He talks about unconditional other acceptance, also unconditional self-acceptance, and unconditional life acceptance. So basically that we accept things exactly as they are, something we call now radical acceptance. We just completely embrace something for what it is. And then we can judge the acts, we can judge the behaviors, we can try to change things on top of it. But we always can believe that there's a string that flows through each of us that connects everybody together. And that's what I like to always practice, even in the face of some very difficult situations.
Yeah, it's actually refreshing because most people, they always go to the negative. Like you always see news, right? And in news, people will watch the negative news, but they never watch the positive news, And it's like, why can't we just focus on things that make us happy versus things that make us feel bad?
Well, fear is so powerful. Fear is the number one emotion that can motivate us. It is the most powerful emotion. So if people can gin up fear in somebody, they can get their eyeballs on the screen. So if the news is going to present scary news, we want to watch it because we want to be prepared. We want to find out what happened. If someone's saying there's a threat coming, we want to watch it because we've got to go get, our guns ready or something. I don't know. But it's that people just keep ginning up more and more fear, and people who are watching don't realize they're being played a little bit, because you're right, most of life is not fearful. There are things, yes, but most of the time we can embrace each other. And when you really look at humanity and how we react, I did an episode about, I was in a crowded movie theater where somebody yelled fire, and the movie theater itself was on fire. And we were on the second story and in a very old movie theater, and we had to clear out, and there was so much smoke. We had to crawl on the ground. You couldn't see anything, et cetera, et cetera. But you and I both know that in psychology, people are always saying, never yell fire in a crowded movie theater. But what did someone do? They yelled fire, and everyone started smelling smoke, and people calmly got up. It was as if we were letting out of church, aisle by aisle. Every person got out. Everyone was super calm. We all got to the door. It was a wall of smoke. Everyone got down on the ground one at a time, and people were yelling at us, get down, follow my voice. So we're crawling on the ground towards someone's voice till I finally got to a fire exit on the other side. And then I saw it was an Alaska Airlines flight where that door flew off. And I read the accounts of the people on board, and they said it was after the door flew off. I mean, after some chaos, all the wind, everyone got secured. Basically, it was a normal flight all the way home. People just sat there and, you know, like they didn't enjoy the flight, but they just sat there calmly as the flight landed, as it went back. So I think that we always underestimate human beings. They're in these very, very difficult positions or conditions, and they can often rise to the occasion.
Yeah, I mean, it's true because people sat on that flight. I remember reading that going, oh my God, that's amazing to me, right? And, like you said about the movie theater, people will adapt. Sometimes we just don't believe in ourselves,
Yeah, we have to believe in ourselves. I know sometimes I've self-doubt all the time. You know me. I have self-doubt. I wonder about this and that. I'm confident in my abilities, but I'll have self-doubt like, did so and so like me? Did I offend that person by saying blah blah, Oh, was I the first car to go? I mean, literally, I think it's my Catholic upbringing. I'm eternally guilty. I'm always looking around to do the right thing at all times. And that is just not a way to live, but nonetheless, it's the way that is in my brain. So I just kind of walk around doing it. So I think part of it is, I kind of live with that, but then I do look at, oh, I can be compassionate toward myself. By the way, a study I just talked about this week is couples who are compassionate toward themselves. So if you are in a relationship, Dr. Debra, I mean, I don't hope I'm not giving that away. And if you are compassionate toward yourself in the relationship, that will improve your relationship and make your partner happier. How about that? That is tremendous.
It is tremendous. You taught me that, actually, because you have to love thyself. And if you don't love thyself, you cannot love another. And, what's interesting is that you're talking about all these concepts. And I know people who are listening to this podcast are going to learn from you. But I'm wondering, what is it that's going to be your concept? What are you going to bring to everybody? Because we've heard a few things. And if it's like that, it's going to be an amazing, amazing segment for you.
I hope to make it better than that, honestly, because I want to feature people, and I'm talking to people. So let me just kind of give you my theme. My theme is of interest to men healing, and inspiration for men healing. So I'm focusing on people who both have inspirational stories. They came up from nothing, formed businesses and did this, people, regular folk that we can identify with, who have tremendous work ethic and tremendous personal ethics and really put it to hard work. I think that's the kind of modeling we need. We don't need superstars always telling us what to do, or people on podcasts, by the way. here we are. But saying like, every day dispensing what they think is the right wisdom, although sure enough, I mean, my out off the couch, but I'm just talking about research. And here we're talking about people. And that's a little bit different. We're focusing on somebody else. We're not just saying it's our intelligence that's will guide everyone, right? We're saying we got to be in this together to heal together. And that's what I want to do. And I want to feel the interest of men. It's just things that can help people heal, to see the world in a much more realistic and thus more positive way. We are so skewed to look at things in such a negative way. I hope to help us all look at things in a more realistic and positive way.
So is that how you're going to show that you're listening to survivors?
Yes, I do hope, because I think people who are survivors have suffered trauma. And people who suffer trauma don't let the trauma doesn't end when the physical act ends. The trauma continues emotional and physical in the body. And it comes up in their mind, in repeated thoughts, in the way they act, in the way they hold themselves back, in the way they might hide. So I want to help people who are survivors to actually help them see a different pathway.
Yeah. And in doing that, right, you're listening to their journey, right? Because that's the biggest thing, is that men usually don't feel like somebody's listening to them, right? And of course, the podcast is for anyone who wants to listen, but MenHealing focuses on male survivors.
Yes. Well, I think it is right. And I think that you're exactly right, because people are not focusing on men in general, except in such negative ways. But it's all very odd about that. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of movement happening in this podcast, the MenHealing podcast, or is just one of them that is helping people to move in a positive direction.
And how do you think that you can promote healing from what you're going to do? Like I've heard you talk about educating. I've heard you talk about listening. I heard you talk about all these things, but what is the one thing you want people to get that's going to promote healing?
Truly. I mean, it kind of goes back to what I just talked about, which is self-compassion. If there's one thing I want people to take away, is to be able to be compassionate toward yourself for your shortcomings, for your difficulties, for the past that you've suffered, for the future that you're yet to have, and to allow yourself the grace to just be in the world, whether you're just hanging out on the couch or going into a job, or you're doing something rather profound. That we all need to be more forgiving of ourselves, and just kind of walk around and understand we're all in the same soup together, and that we're all connected.
Yeah, like the grace to be in this world. That's like such a way to say it, right? Because a lot of times survivors don't feel like they have that grace, or they can't even forgive themselves so that they can take part in all parts of the world, and all parts of their life.
The biggest problem of any kind of trauma and depression in general is people develop these beliefs that basically hold them down. So they start to hold themselves down. I don't think they obviously don't do it with intention, but they have what we call self-limiting beliefs. They believe that they only are capable of so much, that they're damaged goods, that there's something wrong with them, that maybe no one will love them. And that's what we want to help people to be able to overcome.
So with that, let's make this positive. Let's see, what is it that you're most excited about?
Making an impact. I mean, I guess what excites me always is helping. I always think, I hate to say how those people say, oh, if I can only help one person, but you know what? I can't think in big groups. I think in terms of, who is that individual that's listening? Who's somebody that maybe can benefit, And when I get one email from somebody, it makes my week. So, that kind of thing is very exciting to me. So just making an impact on somebody, being able to show them improvement. Yeah, just after I'm sorry, this is a real moment. I was after my show on Bravo, a woman stopped me in the hospital. She was obviously very ill, and I worked at UCLA Hospital and training psychiatry residents. This was for several years, and I was in the hospital, and a woman who was a patient, very ill, stopped me, and she just talked about the impact of that show on her and how much it helped her to overcome her trauma as a child. So I can't even tell you. Obviously, it still sticks with me and still brings tears to my eyes.
Yeah, because you were so vulnerable on camera talking about your own journey, right? And so, I mean, I can't imagine when someone is that vulnerable and someone shows that, right? It touches people because you're real. That's the one thing about you that I know is that you're real and you say it like it is and you are a genuine person.
Well, thank you. I do feel real most of the time. I got the aches and pains in the morning, and God knows what, and then hunger, and dry mouth. I don't know, but yeah, I'm not trying to push away the compliment. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Well, what guests can you reveal? Is there people you have lined up? Was there something that you want to give us a tease?
I did talk to one guy because I thought his journey. I've known him since he was like a minimum wage person working at a gym, and now he owns his own gym, and was able to come up through the ranks as a personal trainer and have his, his own journey through that. And he was someone who was worked on the streets. He was 15 years old. He's been through everything. Um, and now he has a beautiful relationship with his family. He owns his own gym. He really, if you were ever to meet him, you think this is a successful, grounded person. And he's funny and he's smart. But I was impressed with his story. So he already said that I could reveal him. So we're going to talk to him.
Oh, wow. Well, that's going to be awesome. I love hearing about people who have, become something and brought themselves up and those stories, because that's most of us, right? People hear me joking about feeding the goat when I was in high school. And that's what made me realize I wanted to do something else. Not that goat feeding isn't great. It just wasn't me. Right. But I had to build that. I had to become that. And I am better for it, because I can relate to people. And I love that that's what you're bringing here, because, a lot of people see people on TV, they even see people on podcasts, right? And they think, well, it was easy for them. It wasn't easy. And now they're going to be able to see people who are just like them.
Yes, nothing's ever easy. I think when you just look at the end point, you think, oh, that was easy. How did they get there? It must be luck. And sometimes it is. I'm not going to deny. Sometimes people have great luck and good for them. They might be born into the right situation or whatever, but at some point, everyone struggles. I don't know of a person that doesn't enter a struggle. Plus, you can't judge a book by its cover, as you and I both know. The people's trauma can be quite hidden under a bubbly facade. You don't know what's going on with somebody until you really talk to them.
And get to know them. There's a clothing line that I love. It's called Beautiful Disaster. And I just think that is the most amazing thing because, they're beautiful, but they're also inside. They're a disaster and they're just trying to live, and it's like a lot of times people will tune in and they're just trying to take up some sort of space to where they're getting through the next day, which is awesome because it's okay to be a beautiful disaster,
I think that's amazing. Yes, it is okay. It is okay to be a beautiful disaster. And, sometimes we're all disasters. We can only hope to be beautiful during that time.
True. Is there anything you want to leave everybody with, Dr. Cason?
I think our greatest gift is coming together as people. I think it's our purpose. Like when we talk about purpose, I don't know what my purpose is. I love psychology. I know what my passion is, but I don't know if it's really my purpose. But I know that bringing people together and coming together as human beings, it to me is the purpose of the human race, that we can come together and support each other. And that to me is the purpose. And that's why I love this organization. And that's why I'm really honored to be a part of it, at least for a little bit.
Well, yeah, and you know what? I didn't ask you. How did you become a part of just healing or MenHealing? How did you become a part of it?
Yeah, I think we were together. You contacted me about this organization. You turned me on to it. Then you told me about that they're going to have this upcoming podcast, and would I be interested? I'm like, oh gosh, absolutely. It was without hesitation, honestly. And that was that. It was just straightforward.
Yeah, well, as direct as I always am. I think I had just seen you in London, and I said, "Oh my God, that's going to be a good fit, right?" But also, it is the joy that it brings, and I think listeners are going to love that. And anyone who wants to hear this, please continue. You can see it on my LinkedIn and follow me. But his segment is going to be amazing, and he's going to bring so much light to this podcast. So I cannot wait to see it because I will watch it like I watch everything that you do.
Thank you, Debra. I really appreciate it. Really, really a privilege on my part. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Just Healing. Join us for new episodes throughout 2024, where we will continue to spread the message of hope and healing and welcome Just Healing's 3 new co-hosts, Michael Munson, Dr. Greg Cason, and Jace Barron. It's going to be an exciting year. And remember, you are worthy, trauma doesn't define us, and healing is a collective journey. This podcast is produced by myself, Dr. Debra, in collaboration with MenHealing, a national nonprofit dedicated to helping provide accessible resources and community for any male or male-identifying survivors of sexual harm. MenHealing's aim is to help heal, inspire, and break isolation for survivors. You can donate, check out our healing events, videos, and other resources at menhealing.org. If you or someone you know has been a victim of sexual harm and you need to talk to someone, RAIN can help. Call their National Sexual Assault Hotline to speak with a trained staff member who can provide you with confidential crisis support. It's free, confidential, and 24/7. Call 1-800-656-4673.